Hey guys, today I want to take a look at the 2021 New York City mayoral election. This is what will occur on the 2nd of November this year, 2021. In less than 8 months, the city of New York will elect a new mayor to replace Bill de Blasio, who has been term limited as he cannot run for a third term, according, to the law there in New York City. And so basically, this is the race that Andrew Yang is in, and he is currently a front runner. And today I want to take a look at whether or not Andrew Yang will really be able to pull off a win and win, his first major office as a politician. He, of course, is an entrepreneur who was able to make a pretty big impact in the 2020 Democratic primary. He ended up losing, but he was the last person of color to be on the debate stage with candidates like Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. So make sure you join my Discord server if you have not. The link to which is at the very top of the description below. So yeah, make sure you join that if you haven't. And so taking a look at this race, what we're basically going to be talking about is the Democratic primary, because the Republican candidate is essentially irrelevant. The city of New York is not going to elect a Republican as its mayor. 2017, Bill de Blasio wins with around 66% of the vote, I believe was the margin. If this is going to load. So as you can see, Bill de Blasio, 66% of the vote. 2013, he won with an even larger margin. He won by almost 50%. A 50% margin, that is huge. I mean, 73.2% of the vote for Bill de Blasio in his first term. And then 2009, before this, you had, of course, the 3 terms that Michael Bloomberg served. He was allowed a 3rd term by the New York City Council. So this city has not been blue for a very long time at all. It was just red with this last mayor besides Bill de Blasio, which was, of course, Michael Bloomberg. He won his first election in 2001. Before that, you had, of course, Republican Rudy Giuliani, of course, surprisingly. But this was a time when New York was, could have been a red state, and New York City could have been red as well. So it's really pretty lately that this city has become, dark blue. But at this point, there is no way that a Republican is going to win the race for mayor in New York City here in 2021. And currently, the front runner is, of course, Andrew Yang, who, did very, very well in the Democratic primary, considering who he was, an Asian American. He basically did better than any Asian American in the past. And then if you look at the betting odds right now for the New York City race in 2021 this year, Andrew Yang, 55-cent share on predicted. He has the highest betting odds chance out of anyone in the race by a pretty large margin. Following that, you have Eric Adams, 26 cents, Maya Wiley at 10 cents, and then Scott Stringer at 8 cents. So essentially, you have the 4 major candidates here, with, of course, Andrew Yang and Eric Adams being the main ones, but Andrew Yang is clearly the front runner. This is like, the Democratic primary. You had Joe Biden at the top, and then Bernie Sanders, not that far behind, but still a pretty significant amount behind. So if you want to take a look at who they are, Eric Adams, they've all basically been involved in local politics in New York. He is currently the Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams, Maya Wiley here, and then you had Scott Stringer. So these are the 3 other candidates, and of course, I'm sure everybody knows who Andrew Yang is, entrepreneur who ran in 2020, was pretty popular, but he is currently the one with, the highest name recognition by far. He has 2 million followers on Twitter. And of course, it's not about followers. Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. But having this in, a local race, I think really can help you. This name recognition is really going to help a lot, because in these more localized races, people essentially just vote by party and vote by name recognition alone. They do a lot less research into who they're really going to be voting for. But Andrew Yang, he is popular. Even if people, did search up stuff about him, he would be very, very popular in New York City. He has a positive favorability nationwide. When he was running in 2020 for the race, that, his approval or his favorability, net favorability, was higher than Joe Biden's during the 2020 primary. And then compare, his number of followers, his digital footprint to Bill de Blasio, 223,000 for him. So really, Andrew Yang is, very, very well known, especially online. And I think that he currently is, the clear front runner. If you look at how these betting odds have changed, when Andrew Yang basically went into the race a couple of months ago, I believe it was early February when he jumped in, he had a huge chance. He was rumored to run quite a bit before this, after not being included in Joe Biden's cabinet. He is from the city of New York. And of course, Andrew Yang right now, a 54-cent share 55 now. Eric Adams at around 25, 26, and then Maya Wiley 9. So essentially, these candidates haven't really changed. It's really Andrew Yang who has increased his chances by a huge amount since he entered the race. So definitely he has a very, very good chance at winning this. If we want to take a look at the latest polls for this race, which is something that I do want to do, the first polls that have been released was essentially in January 2020. As you can see here, there really was so many candidates that were unsure. So many people that were unsure about who to vote for. But at this point, very, very early on, around 2 years before this race, Eric Adams was at 9%. You had Scott Stringer at 5%. Those were the announced candidates, and then 38% were for others who are currently not in the race or not, significant enough to be put on here. And then once you saw, Andrew Yang jump in, the latest poll released in early March from Emerson College, which I will take a look at closer in just a few moments here. Andrew Yang 32%, Eric Adams 19%. And so this is essentially just whoever gets the most votes wins the poll. So this is first past the post polls. But in the primary and in the mayoral election, it will depend on the ranked choice voting, which is what New York is doing. So you do not need a majority in the first ballot. There's just so many candidates. You really only need to have a very strong amount of first and second choice support, which is essentially what this is here. You have the first ballot. This is the original one. So this is before allocation. So you vote for whoever you want, or if you're undecided in this poll, you basically have the first row here, and then you take out all the undecideds. You take out the weaker candidates, and then you just go one by one. And then in the final ballots here, let's say the 9th ballot, you have just 4 candidates: Andrew Yang, Maya Wiley, Scott Stringer, and Eric Adams. And then in the 10th one, you have Yang, Stringer, and Adams. And then finally, since Scott Stringer is the weakest out of these 3 candidates, you just have Eric Adams versus Andrew Yang head to head. And out of these two, 39-61. So Andrew Yang clearly the favorite in every single one of these ballots here. Clearly, very, very clearly on top. This earlier poll basically shows the same thing. He's been polling very, very well. If you do a head-to-head here, Andrew Yang at almost 50% in all 3 of these polls, almost a majority with a huge amount of people still undecided like we saw in the Democratic primary, but people will get more decided, and I do think that Andrew Yang will be able to pick up a lot more votes. And honestly, at this point, unless something happens to Andrew Yang, I think that he is a shoo-in. As long as he continues campaigning, he is running a pretty strong campaign. He's visited all 5 boroughs many, many times, done many campaign events, and honestly, as long as he keeps this up, I think that he has a very, very strong chance at winning the race here, his first public office that he would be able to hold as an elected official. So his polling numbers very, very strong right now, and you want to take a closer look at the Emerson College polls. So essentially, Andrew Yang 32 cents a share, Eric Adams 19, Maya Wiley 9, and Scott Stringer at 6. So Scott Stringer has lost a little bit of support, while Maya Wiley has moved up in the last couple of weeks. Eric Adams still at the top there, along with Andrew Yang, who is by far a lot more ahead. But, if you look at if you look at the other information that's been put in this poll, you'll see why it's going to be a Democrat. Joe Biden's approval rating among the people that participated in this poll is at 69%. So Joe Biden is very, very heavily liked in New York City, and no way a Republican is going to win this race. He has a 69% approval rating. Not only 1 in 5 people in the city do not approve of President Biden. As for Governor Cuomo, this was released, of course, in early March, so everything that's happened since then has happened afterwards. So Governor Andrew Cuomo, 55 approve, 34 disapprove, 12% are unsure. And then for Bill de Blasio, he of course won 66% of the vote in his re-election there in 2017, but he has right now a 58% disapprove rating, 26% approve, and 16% who are unsure. So Bill de Blasio, even if he did run for re-election, he's not going to win. So I think that really was something that, helped him having that term limit. I don't, he really had no chance. He also ran in the 2020 Democratic primary, and he did, terrible. Really, really terrible. And then this right here shows what the people in New York City are essentially worried about, what should be the mayor's first priority. And COVID-19 obviously at the top, it's something that's affected everyone. New York City, especially early on, jobs as well, homelessness, education and schooling, as well as housing, all these things relating to COVID-19, healthcare as well. Police reform is a little bit different. This was a result of the Black Lives Matter protests. I mean, that had a huge effect on this. And of course, New York City was when the stop and frisk policy was first used, not first used, but was used pretty widely under Mayor Michael Bloomberg, the environment and then transportation. So really, it's all about COVID-19 right now. That's what's at the top of the minds of New Yorkers, and they're currently believing that Andrew Yang will do the best out of everyone. I think name recognition has really helped him a lot. Without his presidential run, it's pretty obvious that Andrew Yang would not be where he is right now in this race. And at this point, he has won a pretty strong coalition of voters that he definitely has enough to win the primary with just the people that he has supports him at this moment in time, right now. So, that's a lot of the stuff that I did want to go over today. I do also want to go over the fundraising right now because this race has been going on for a little bit now. And Andrew Yang was able to raise $6.5 million in just 57 days. So he is, of course, one of the newer entries into this race. He was able to receive donations from 15,600 individual donors, which is a lot, and 6.5 million. So that's around 2 months there, 57 days. So let's say he makes around 3 million, not makes, but he's been able to raise around $3 million for his campaign, a little bit more than that. 3.5 million, I would say. So $3.5 million every single month, and that is a lot. If you compare that to Joe Biden's presidential run, the front runner, he was making $6-7 million in a month for a presidential campaign early on in the Democratic primary. So Andrew Yang really is getting a lot of grassroots support. He's by far the largest grassroots supported candidate. Yet Scott Stringer, who has raised 9.14 million, and then Eric Adams at 9.3 million. But they've been in the race for a lot more time than Andrew Yang, and it's just 57-day run so far. It's a lot more money going to be poured into this race. And Andrew Yang's average is $107 per donation, which is a pretty strong average, representing 87% of their supporters. So, they've been able to claim grassroots support among New Yorkers. So, Andrew Yang at this point, beating the field in essentially every single aspect, name recognition, polling data, popularity, as well as fundraising as well. He's really been doing very well. He's been able to visit all 5 boroughs. And I think that, like I said, unless something happens, unless some huge scandal is going to come out about him in the next couple of months, he essentially is a shoo-in. He's a lot more popular than someone like Joe Biden among New Yorkers, and he's really the only major candidate that has nationwide recognition, Andrew Yang, and his chances here really do reflect that. He currently, at 55, that is a really high amount. He's polling in first place everywhere, so I'll continue to update you guys on this race. But right now, the clear favorite, Andrew Yang, jumped into the race about 2 months ago. He is currently doing very, very well here. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below any questions you have and who you think will win the mayoral race. Like this video, enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you have not. Join my Discord server if you have not. The link which is at the very top of the description below. And I will see you guys in the next video.